Has there ever been a person in your life who, by virtue of how she acted, by virtue of how he treated you, has there ever been a person in your life that you look at and just say, I want to be like that person because the example that she sets, the example that he sets, is so good, so positive. It's like, I want to be like that person as I continue to grow and mature. Um, I think, and I hope, that all of us have been impacted by the power of a good example. And that's what our theme for today is about. Paul is writing to the Thessalonians, and First Thessalonians is probably the first book in the New Testament to actually be written down. It's probably the oldest book in the New Testament. And part of how Paul begins is by writing to them about the power of the example of their faith community and how it's known to other churches and to other faith communities. And in verse 3, which is our verse for the day, Paul is beginning by saying how they give thanks to God. He and his ministry team, always give thanks to God for all of you and mention you in our prayers, constantly remembering before our God and Father. And the remembering is where our verse starts, verse 3. Remembering before our God and Father your work of faith and labor of love and steadfastness of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ. Faith, hope, and love, sometimes in this case in a slightly different order than you think of it in 1 Corinthians 13, are just absolutely foundational aspects of the Christian life and a Christian church to the Apostle Paul. And the power of the Thessalonians' example is really motivating to me, and I hope it is to you and to our congregation as a whole. I want to be, as a person, and I want our church to be known as a congregation, as a community of faith, to be known for faith and love and hope, because they're so foundational to being a Christian. And Paul, in a sense, is telling them that we live by faith, that our faith impacts how we look at life and our challenges, our joys, that we also are to be known in and for love. Love is the defining characteristic of a Christian life and of a church, and I'll be talking about that next week. And then we also are to be voices of hope. And particularly right now, that might be the hardest of these three things, because there are a lot of reasons to not be hopeful as we look around our nation and around the world. And yet, in spite of what is taking place, in spite of what is going on, you and I are called to be positive role models, people whose lives are marked by faith and love and hope. Three things, three virtues of the Christian life that are desperately needed in the lives of people around us, in our communities, in our nation, and three virtues that, when they are the pillars of our life, give us a solid foundation no matter what we're facing.